Did you know that the Kingdom of Bhutan is famous for being one of the most remote and unique places in the world? A country known as the Land of the Dragon, with such incredible curiosities as the presence of genital organs on its facades, that there are women with several husbands or men with several wives, or being the place with the highest happiness index in the world. In this new uncensored world video, we will learn more about this country nestled in the folds of the Himalayas, discovering details and curiosities that make this beautiful place on the planet unique and challenge the way we know the world. Bhutan is a mountainous country located at the eastern end of the Himalayas, which makes access and communication with other countries difficult. But they also isolate themselves voluntarily to preserve their culture and independence. It is also one of the few countries in the world in which you can observe a low influence of modern culture. This makes it unique and very precious, as this is one of the places less contaminated by man and globalization. It was not until the year 1974 when the Bhutanese government began to allow foreigners to enter the country, but in very limited quantities. In the 18th century, the British tried to establish relations but were unsuccessful, and to this day, only a few countries have diplomatic relations with Bhutan. This makes it one of the most authentic places on the planet, as it still preserves its unique and ancestral traditions, customs, architecture, and society. As you will see in this video, Bhutan is truly a unique country that will not leave you indifferent. So don't miss any of these curiosities. One of the fundamental aspects of the country is that here, success is not measured by gross domestic product, but by happiness. In Bhutan, there is an index called GNH, which stands for Gross National Happiness, which is based on the idea that the real wealth of a country is not found in money or material goods, but in the well-being and happiness of its people. This is measured through 4 fundamental pillars: sustainable socio-economic development, environmental conservation, cultural preservation, and good governance. That is why in Bhutan they even have a Minister of Happiness, whose function is to promote and achieve the well-being of the population. With this in mind, it is likely that if you travel to Bhutan, you will see that the richest person is not the one who has the most possessions or the most professional success, but the person who knows how to live the best and is the happiest and makes his fellow men and women the happiest. In Bhutan, people value aspects such as love, kindness, and equality, much more than the money one can have in his account. Even the King of Bhutan himself, whom we will talk about in detail later, has stated on several occasions that the happiness of his people is more important than material wealth. Taking all this into account, Bhutan is one of the few countries that has truly moved away from capitalism, which means that they do not have a high material wealth, but a spiritual wealth and a unique way of living in the world much more developed. With this in mind, Bhutan is considered the happiest country in the world, a very curious country because it is also one of the smallest countries in the world, with only 38,000 square kilometers and a population of about 800,000 people. The Bhutanese are so integrated in living happily that they have a strong connection with nature, develop daily spirituality, and give much importance to the care of health and the environment. Being the majority of its population Buddhists, it is seen that they have internalized much that connection with the present and nature that helps them to stay strong and happy, despite being away from almost everything. Bhutan's focus on the preservation of the environment and the well-being of its citizens is also reflected in its unique policies. With all this, Bhutan has become the first country to be carbon negative, the only one in the world. Being carbon negative means that a country or an entity absorbs more carbon dioxide, 1 or 2, than it emits into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is one of the main greenhouse gases responsible for global warming and climate change. To become carbon negative, a country must implement policies and practices that significantly reduce its CE or 2 emissions, and in addition, absorb or capture more CE or 2 than it emits, through actions such as reforestation, forest protection, or the use of carbon sequestration technologies. Bhutan is the first country to achieve this carbon negative status, which means that it is not only reducing its carbon emissions, but also helping to remove excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, contributing like no other place to combat climate change. One of the measures that has helped in this status, as well as promoting a healthy lifestyle, is the ban on the sale and production of tobacco in the country. These policies reflect Bhutan's commitment to the well-being of both its people and the environment, in line with the principles of Buddhist spirituality ingrained in its society. Bhutan is also, and has always been, one of the most isolated countries on the planet. It began to open up to the world in the 1960s, during the reign of Bhutan's third king, Chuk, when the country began a process of modernization to improve the quality of life of its people and to develop diplomatic relations with other countries. Although restrictions were initially very stringent, in 1974 Bhutan allowed a limited number of foreign tourists to enter the country. This restrictive tourism policy is called high-value, low-impact tourism, which aims to protect Bhutan's environment, culture, and traditions, while generating revenue to finance development and improve the lives of its citizens. In addition, Bhutan established diplomatic relations with countries such as India in 1949 and joined international organizations such as the United Nations in 1971, which also contributed to opening the country to the world. To preserve this unique culture and environment in the world, the government of Bhutan has implemented a controlled tourism policy that is very important to know if you want to visit this country. Because of this policy and this intention to preserve a unique place in the world, and one of the least polluted, obtaining a visa for Bhutan can be somewhat costly, with daily rates set at about $100 per person per day. This cost does not include accommodation, meals, guides, or local transportation, but it does help to sustain its people and the incredible magic that makes this a unique place in the world with a high national happiness index. Another important aspect you should know if you plan to travel to Bhutan is that here it is essential to book your trip through an authorized travel agency, as independent travel is practically impossible. Even with so much care and its unique conditions, the country has had the internet for years, which inevitably has an influence on the population, especially the younger generation. Despite this, Bhutan remains relatively isolated and remote from other countries, a fact reflected in the fact that it currently only has embassies or consulates in Australia, Thailand, Belgium, Bangladesh, Kuwait, India, Switzerland, and the United States. They have maintained a policy of neutrality in international affairs, avoiding involvement in conflicts and political alliances. One of the most striking aspects for any tourist arriving in Bhutan are the ornaments used in many of the Bhutanese houses. When strolling through the picturesque Bhutanese villages, it is difficult not to notice a peculiar architectural element: the genital organs that adorn the facades of many of the houses. This motif is known as phallus and is considered a symbol of fertility and good luck. The open and prominent presence of these symbols highlights the uninhibited and open attitude of Bhutanese society towards sexuality and other elements. Surely the fact that they have been isolated and have not had problems of various kinds with foreign societies or civilizations has helped the Bhutanese to trust their society and not see as taboo these unique motifs in the world. In Bhutan, the phallus is not limited to decoration. It is also presented in festivals and cultural rituals. In the village of Chimilakang, for example, the Temple of Fertility celebrates the connection between sexuality and spirituality. Locals believe that visiting the temple and receiving blessings from the phallus can aid in conception and protect against infertility. These architectural elements and their meanings reveal a unique cultural perspective in Bhutan, where spirituality and sexuality coexist in an unusual and open way. In the next part, we will explore the perception of happiness in this Himalayan kingdom and other fascinating curiosities that make Bhutan a truly extraordinary destination. As you can see, Bhutan is a unique place in the world, but continue to enjoy the video as you will be surprised, because in this country, there are even more striking curiosities than this one. One of its most striking curiosities has to do with the use they have given for years to the pot plant. A reality that now you are going to know that has much to do with the isolation and having been away from all kinds of information and news for years. The mass media came to Bhutan quite late compared to most countries in the world, as it was in the year 1999 when the government allowed television and internet access, something that was done as part of an effort to modernize the country and improve the quality of life of its population. It was also the last country to introduce radio, something it did not do until 1888. Despite this openness, the government has maintained control over some content, promoting educational and cultural programs instead of purely commercial or entertainment content, something that surely many other countries should do since technological changes without control can lead to many problems in societies, as is being seen in many supposedly developed countries, and the influence of social networks. Considering this isolation in Bhutan, due to being so isolated and far away from the world and the news, the Bhutanese did not know that the marijuana plant could be consumed until radio and television arrived. Before they knew it, the Bhutanese were already using it, but they collected and prepared it in a unique and very curious way in the world. They did it only to give it to the cattle. This plant was collected and prepared as food mainly for pigs, and although it is not known precisely how it was used specifically, it is likely that it was given as fodder or was somehow incorporated into their diet. If we take this into account, we could think that surely in Bhutan, pigs were also the happiest pigs on the planet, with a high degree of gross national happiness, surely due to the unique way in which they were fed. Today, the use of the pot plant for recreational purposes or to feed livestock is totally illegal in Bhutan. Possession, consumption, and distribution of marijuana are prohibited by law and can carry penalties of up to 5 years in prison. For all these reasons, it seems that the Bhutanese realize the effects of this plant, and it is no longer legally used in livestock feed or for any other purpose in the country. Before we continue, we would like to ask you, which of these curiosities has caught your attention the most? Would you like to travel and visit Bhutan? Pause the video and leave us your comment. Doing so is the best way you have to support our channel to continue researching and bring you videos as interesting as this one, so thank you. And if you are liking it, don't hesitate to give it a nice like and share it with friends and loved ones. Another curiosity of Bhutan is its roads. Until the year 1961, it had no paved roads, and the only way to travel was on foot or on horseback. Today, the most common forms of transportation are private vehicles, cabs, and buses. The latter connect the main cities. For air transport, there are 4 airports throughout the country, although flights are limited in the more remote areas due to the mountainous geography and lack of infrastructure. There are no trains in Bhutan, and in remote areas there are only 3 main options for getting around. One is walking, the other is horseback riding, and the most striking and characteristic is riding yaks. Yaks are a species of cattle adapted to high altitudes and mountainous terrain. They are robust and covered with a thick coat that protects them from the cold. Although they are known for being used as pack animals, in this remote location, they are also used for transporting people in rural and remote areas of Bhutan. Modern postal service in Bhutan was established in the year 1962. Prior to that, it was curious, but the way postal deliveries were made was by a rudimentary courier system through messengers who traveled on foot, carrying important messages and parcels between the districts and villages of the country. With the advent of modern postal service, postage stamps and post offices were implemented in different parts of the country, thus improving communication and the exchange of goods and services. Travel to Bhutan, despite its geographical isolation, is possible. However, as flights to Bhutan can be limited, it is advisable to plan ahead. Paro International Airport is the only international airport in Bhutan. It is the main gateway to the country for most tourists. This airport is also known to be one of the most difficult and dangerous airports in the world to land and take off from, due to complicated geographical conditions. Being at an altitude of 2,235 meters when descending, the pilot has to zigzag between mountains, sometimes rectify trajectories, and land quickly on a runway of only 1,200 meters. Landings can only be made during the day, and if there are clouds or other adverse weather conditions, the flight can be diverted. In addition, it is done in manual mode, following procedures designed by experienced pilots. Only a few pilots worldwide are qualified to land at this airport. The two national airlines, Druk and Bhutan Airlines, operate flights to and from destinations such as India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Thailand, and Singapore. The kings of Bhutan have ruled since the establishment of the monarchy in 1907, when Sir Hugeon Wangchuck was crowned as the first Dragon King. Since then, the monarchy has passed through 5 generations of the same family. At present, the king is Jigme Kesar Namgyel Wangchuck, whom we spoke of at the beginning, crowned in 2008 after the abdication of his father. King Jigme is known for his charisma and closeness to his people. He studied at prestigious universities in the United Kingdom and the United States, which has allowed him to balance tradition and modernity in his style of government. His wife is Jetsun Pema, the queen consort of Bhutan. She is famous for her beauty, elegance, and interest in art, painting, and basketball. She was born in 1990, and when she married the king in October 2011 at the age of 21, she became the youngest queen consort in the world. Another unique curiosity in the world can be found in the remote mountains of Bhutan. Here you will find an animal that only exists in this remote part of the world known as takin, a strange cross between a cow and a ram. The takin is unique to Bhutan and is therefore considered the national animal. Colorful festivals and traditional dances, such as the Tsechu, offer a fascinating glimpse into the country's rich cultural heritage. Bhutan is also home to one of the wonders built by humans, the Tiger's Nest, or Takchang Monastery, located on a cliff in the Paro Valley, at an altitude of 3,500 meters. It is one of the most sacred and venerated places in Bhutan, being one of the most visited destinations by Bhutanese pilgrims and travelers. Its origin dates back to the 8th century, when it is believed that the Guru Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, introduced Buddhism in Bhutan and Tibet. According to legend, Guru Rinpoche flew from Tibet to where the monastery now stands on the back of a tigress that was actually a transformed queen consort. The guru meditated in a cave in the cliff for 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours, subduing the local demons and turning them into protectors of the Dharma, which are the Buddhist teachings. The present complex was built in the 17th century around the cave where Guru Rinpoche meditated. It consists of several temples and shrines, interconnected with narrow passages and stairways carved into the rock. The capital of Bhutan is also unique in the world and is called Thimphu, located in the Thimphu Chu River Valley. With an altitude of 2,334 meters above sea level, it is one of the highest capitals in the world. But what makes this capital and Bhutan unique, besides having the only animal half ram, half cow, being the happiest on the planet or the least polluted, is that its capital is the only capital of a country in the world that has no traffic lights, a reality that many of us would surely love to see. In Thimphu, instead of traffic signals, the city relies on the guidance of traffic policemen to maintain order at intersections, highlighting the peaceful and relaxed life that characterizes Bhutan. In Thimphu, traffic officers direct the flow of vehicles from booths at major intersections. Despite being the capital of the country, Thimphu has a calm and peaceful atmosphere. Its buildings follow a traditional Bhutanese architectural style, with one of its landmarks being the Tashicho Dzong, which is a fortress monastery with offices for the king and the summer residence of Jekenpo, Bhutan's spiritual leader. In the capital is also the Buddha Dordanma, a huge statue of Buddha located on top of a hill with a height of 21.5 meters. being one of the largest statues in the world. Other Bhutanese towns to visit if you come to Bhutan are Paro, known for its fortresses and monasteries such as the Paro Dzong and the Tiger's Nest, Punakha, where there is one of the border crossings with India, and Jakar, the ancient capital until the year 1955, where the Palace of Great Happiness is located. Jakar is the heart of Bhutan, and with religious festivals such as the Jambai Lakhang Drub and Trongsa, birthplace of the Wangchuck dynasty, the royal family. As we mentioned, the majority religion in Bhutan is Buddhism, specifically the Mahayana or Vajrayana branch, practiced by 85% of its population. It is a unique and esoteric form of Buddhism found mainly in Tibet and the Himalayan region. The Bhutanese integrate their religious beliefs and practices into their daily lives, whether through meditation, pilgrimages to sacred sites, the recitation of mantras, or the use of prayer flags, which can be seen flying throughout the country. These colorful flags are printed with prayers and mantras that are believed to be carried by the wind to bless the environment and the people in it. The most respected and well-known spiritual and religious leader in the country is called Lg Khenpo and is a highly respected and revered figure. He is considered the embodiment of the wisdom and compassion of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, with a role not only spiritual, but also with an impact on political and social life, as he advises the king and the government on religious and ethical matters. He is appointed by the king, selected from among the most learned and virtuous monks in Bhutan. Once chosen, the Lg Khenpo serves for life, having as his main responsibility to maintain and promote the teaching and practice of Buddhism. As you may have understood, the Bhutanese way of life is characterized and unique by their unique culture and realities due to their remote reality far away from that of the rest of the world. The same is true for their Bhutanese monks, very far from the modern way of life of Western or capitalist countries since millennia. For this reason, monks dedicate their lives to spiritual practice and study, and can enter the monastic life at the age of 6 or 7, sometimes by decision of their parents, who believe it is a way to have a life of merit and spiritual blessings. In Bhutan, there are 8 large monasteries and approximately 200 small monasteries and nunneries, with about 12,000 monks and 5,000 nuns. These Bhutanese monks lead a simple yet disciplined life. They rise early, around 4:30 in the morning, and begin their rituals of meditation and prayer. They study philosophy, literature, history, chanting, and rituals. They do manual labor and contribute to their communities, focusing on the present moment. Education and training can last for many years, during which monks ascend through various levels of knowledge and skills. Meditation and prayer are central to their lives, allowing them to cultivate self-control, compassion, and wisdom. They follow a series of vows and disciplinary rules, known as Vinaya, including vows of celibacy, refraining from killing or harming other living beings, and leading a simple and austere life. In addition, they must behave with humility and respect for others. Shaving the head is a sign of renunciation of ordinary life and outside of social conventions. Another characteristic that makes Bhutan unique is the respect for animals. The care and respect for animals is unique in the world, as it is deeply rooted in the culture and religious beliefs of Buddhism, which emphasizes compassion for all living beings. The killing of animals for human consumption is totally forbidden, including slaughterhouses, and if you want to eat meat, the only way is to import it from neighboring countries such as India. As Buddhists, one would expect most Bhutanese to be vegetarians, but this is not the case, as meat consumption is deeply rooted, which could be related to the need to ingest more protein and fat in a cold climate, and because of the need to do agricultural work. In cities and towns, it is common to see stray dogs, generally well treated by the local population, who often provide them with food and shelter. Also, the majority of Bhutan's population lives in rural areas, practicing a traditional agricultural way of life. Animals, such as yaks and cows, play an important role in daily life and are treated with respect and care by their owners. The official language of Bhutan is Dzongkha, although there are about 20 languages in total and several dialects spoken in the territory. Although it may seem strange, and even more so to us Spanish speakers, the word hello is also used a lot in Bhutan, as a more polite and formal way, and is placed at the end of words or expressions. Bhutan has one of the strictest conservation policies in the world. There are numerous national parks and protected areas to preserve its biodiversity, the largest being the Jigme Dorji Centennial Park, with 5,000 square kilometers. Bhutan's constitution requires that at least 60% of its territory be covered by forest at all times, which helps to maintain and protect animal habitat, and to remain the only carbon-negative country, as you knew in the opening part of this video. Some of the animals that inhabit the Bhutanese territory are the Malayan giant squirrel, the Bengal tiger, the red panda, and the snow leopard. The latter is a unique species on the planet and, unfortunately, in danger of extinction, inhabiting the highest and most remote regions, at altitudes between 3,000 and 4,000 meters, in extreme and cold conditions. Due to its low population, elusive nature, shyness, and ability to camouflage itself, the snow leopard is one of the most difficult felines to spot on the entire planet. This video is coming to an end, but now you are going to know one of the most incredible realities of this unique and magical place that is Bhutan. Although it may seem strange, even more so being such an ancient and remote society, in Bhutan, polygamy is legal, a practice that consists of a person being married to several partners at the same time. And apparently, this was a practice that was done a lot in the past. Although there are fewer and fewer cases, it was practiced more in the past, particularly among the nobility and wealthy families. But over time, customs and attitudes have changed, and today it is a rare and not so accepted practice. An example of polygyny, which is the form of polygamy in which a man has multiple wives, is the fourth king of Bhutan, father of the current king, who is married to 4 wives. A polyandry, which would be one woman married to several men, is practiced by the Brakpa ethnic group and in Laya, a town in northwestern Bhutan. The fact that a woman is married to several brothers guarantees that the children inherit the land and herds of the same family. On the other hand, these are remote places where marrying strangers is frowned upon. Normally, one man or older brother is the leader of the household, and the others are considered equal partners of the woman. In any case, it is a practice that is dying out as new generations receive more advanced education and go to live in more populated places. Apart from the way they practice their intimate relationships, another aspect that distinguishes Bhutan from other places has to do with marriage. Although love marriage is increasingly common in Bhutan, especially in urban areas, arranged marriages still exist, especially in rural communities. Parents often take the initiative in finding a suitable spouse for their children, and may consult an astrologer to determine the compatibility of partners in marriages. Males perform an important part of the household chores, often do the cooking, and traditionally are the ones who make or repair clothing, but do not give up the cloth. In the larger localities, a somewhat more Western pattern of family structure is emerging, with the husband as breadwinner and the wife in charge of the household. Be that as it may, Bhutanese women have an important responsibility in society, and unlike much of the world, they enjoy a number of rights and freedoms, traditionally more than men. Bhutanese society has a matrilineal heritage, i.e., family property and assets are passed down through the female line, which gives women considerable economic and social standing in everyday life. Women work in various sectors such as agriculture, education, healthcare, and government. In rural areas, they are often responsible for agricultural work and home care, while in urban areas, more and more women are joining the workforce in professional and technical positions. We hope that learning about Bhutan has surprised you as much as it has surprised us. If you go there, keep these facts in mind as well. In Bhutan, plastic bags have been banned since 1999. Because much of the country is at high altitudes, those who travel there could suffer from altitude sickness. so it is advisable to be prepared by consulting a doctor before going and taking medicine and good travel insurance. Something that is not well known is that you can enter Bhutan from India, so if you are Indian or you are there, you can study this possibility. Traveling here from Tibet is not possible. About the currency in Bhutan, you can use the local currency called ngultram, but you can also carry US dollars to buy souvenirs or tip. Do not criticize the royal family and avoid talking about sensitive political issues. From Uncensored World, we hope that you liked and surprised Bhutan in detail as much as we did. If so, don't hesitate to leave us a nice comment and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any video as interesting and unique as this one. Every week you will get to know the world in a different way, with videos like the one you can now enjoy by clicking on the link that now appears. Don't miss it, you will enjoy it.